This is DW News Africa. Coming up on the program, what's behind the violent trend targeting LGBTQ people in Nigeria? One survivor of the so-called Kito attacks describes his ordeal, and we see how advocacy groups are working to help those affected fight for justice. Also coming up, as rains fail and riverbeds dry up in northern Kenya, millions are going hungry. DW visits one of the worst-hit regions to see the effects of the ongoing drought. And Europe turns to Africa at a critical moment. As war disrupts the global supply of resources, the EU's foreign policy chief tours West Africa to boost cooperation on energy and defense. Welcome to DW News Africa. I am Tomi Oladipo. In Nigeria, a violent scam known as Kito is being used to target LGBTQ people. Victims are lured through dating apps or social media, then ambushed, beaten, and blackmailed for money. Rights groups say it's a rising trend, with at least 50 cases between December and February this year. DW West Africa correspondent Azizat Olaoluwa spoke to the survivor of one such attack. Her report contains scenes some viewers may find disturbing.
Gavin is a 22-year-old student. It is not his real name, and we have revoiced his audio to further protect his identity. He was targeted and exploited in a homophobic attack. Gavin told us how it happened.
A guy reached out to me online and invited me over. And when I got there, I got ambushed by 4 other guys, making it 5. I was beaten. I was extorted. They recorded me naked.
Gavin says the assailants took his phone and bank card, took out loans in his name, and called his loved ones, demanding money in exchange for his survival.
They borrowed money on 3 of my accounts, collected about 400 euros from my parents. My savings were about 190 euros. They collected it. My phone was worth more than 300 euros. They took it and extorted money from my friends too.
Gavin was held for 8 hours and only released when his captors had wrung enough money out of him. But his trauma remains.
Getting assaulted, molested that way physically, it hurts me emotionally. I don't even socialize as much as I used to because of the trauma of the experience. Every day, it feels like I have a target on my back. Every day, it feels like I can't show my true self. I have to hide who I am.
Being gay is widely considered shameful in Nigeria. Videos showing the public humiliation of gay men circulate freely online, while anything considered to be gay attracts homophobic comments on social media. We must warn you, the next video contains distressing scenes. It shows the moment a gay man in Nigeria is attacked by homophobes. Criminals are taking advantage of the country's anti-gay laws to commit crimes like kidnapping, blackmail, and, like in this video, shared by an activist group, assault. They lure gay men on dates, and when they show up, the victims are ambushed. There is even a name for it in Nigeria: Kito. Lesbian women, too, report similar dating scams, in which men gang rape and film them for extortion purposes. The Initiative for Equal Rights, TIERS, recorded more than 500 human rights violations against the LGBTQ community in 2024 alone. Another activist group called Time Nigeria has stepped in to offer support with workshops and feedback sessions. But participants meet in secret because they fear being attacked. The people behind me are some of the survivors of homophobic attacks in Nigeria, a country that is deeply conservative. Same-sex relationships are criminalized, and offenses carry up to 14 years imprisonment, forcing LGBTQ+ people to live in constant fear and making them easy targets of extortionists. Sometimes, the group even negotiates with the criminals during Kito incidents.
What I normally do is that just to help to negotiate some certain amount, reasonable amount of money. But there are some cases that we have some high amount of money and they're still demanding. They cannot remove anything. And we have some cases that community members have spent 1 week or more than 1 week with them.
And there is worse. Some of them have even been killed. Hilary Ikechukwu was thrown out of the window of a 2-story building when he tried to escape his abductors. The 23-year-old later died from his injuries. During his funeral service, a group of young men showed up at his family home and sang homophobic songs.
It was barely 2 weeks after my case that I saw Hilary's case, and I cried. I really cried because that could have been me. It's very sad that people still have to live in a world where they can be killed just for being themselves.
But with the help of groups like Timed Nigeria, some survivors of homophobia in the country are finding some relief in their quest for justice.
Because of the kind of country we live in, where it is criminalized, it makes it very hard for a queer person to seek for justice from a kidnap case. We've been doing a lot of advocacy on that to let people understand that, no, see yourself as a guy first. See yourself as an human first. Go and report that case. And if the police do not listen to you, reach out to NGOs that can help you on these cases.
Even so, Gavin and other Nigerian survivors fear for their own safety, often feeling trapped in the closet as they work to overcome their trauma.
I would like to see a Nigeria where gay people are able to live their truth without the fear of being judged, without the fear of being condemned. A Nigeria where straight and gay people can live freely, communicate, and help each other equally.
So, for now, Gavin and others like him are left dreaming of a world in which they can be free and safe.
We spoke to Chizelu Emejulu, a lawyer with Minority Watch, an NGO in Lagos which is monitoring these cases, and asked him to tell us the scale of what they've encountered.
We see the attitude even in government places, like there's a case that is currently in court. Just to give you a background of what is going on. So the case is currently in court and it's a Kito case where some perpetrators were arrested and they're currently being prosecuted. And during trial, one of the questions the lawyer was asking was going through the direction of trying to justify what the Kito people did. And he was trying to, the line of questioning was to the effect that he's not denying that these people did what they did, but he's trying to claim that because this person is gay, his line of questioning was to establish that the survivors are gay, and if you are gay, you went there willingly, and if you went there willingly, then whatever happened to you is justified. So I think that this is kind of mindset that is fueling this kind of attack. So yes, that is what we are seeing.
And would you say this is why these attackers are able to operate in such an organized but also open manner without, often without consequences?
So I will say that they do this because there is no, they feel that there's no consequence. And there's no consequence because the government of Nigeria has shown that you could attack gay people and get away with it. And what they have done to show this mindset is by passing the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act, which tries to criminalize a lot of things, not just same-sex marriage, but public display of affection and a lot of other things. And they did this despite the opposition of civil society organizations, NGOs that told them that this is going to lead to violence. They ignored it, and then the violence is happening. So what I think is going on is there's a belief, there's an impunity, there's a belief that if I do this, I will get away with it. And people are beginning to see that homophobia, if you put some effort in homophobia, it pays. is going to generate some money. And this is what they are seeing, because what is going on is kidnapping, armed robbery, requesting for ransom. So they're beginning to do this, seeing that it pays and that the government is not paying attention. The government is not tackling this with the seriousness it deserves. And they're beginning to attack people because they know that they will get away with it. So first of all, the government is the one that has set the tone, and non-state actors have seen that if the government has given us the leeway to attack people, we can do that. And if we do it the first time, we get away with it, we can do it a second and a third time. So that's why it is increasing and it seems to be spiraling and getting out of hand.
Yeah, just wondering from a legal standpoint, though, what protections, if any, do these LGBTQ victims or people have in Nigeria? Just, I mean, by merely being citizens, by merely being people in the country, surely that on its own should be, there should be some kind of protection.
Exactly. The protections that are available to every Nigerian citizen is available to LGBTQI persons as well. The Constitution, where the fundamental rights of everyone is protected, does not specify that you are going to enjoy it if you're of a particular sexual orientation. Indeed, the Constitution, the wording of the Constitution provides that these rights will be enjoyed by everyone. The wording says, sometimes it says every person, everyone, every person, right? So it does not make a distinction between people who belong to the LGBT community and who do not. And with regards to protection, it's important to also understand what is criminalized in Nigeria, all right? So what is prohibited is specific sexual activities. That is what the Nigerian law prohibits, and not the identity itself. But what we are seeing is people being attacked because of their real or perceived sexual identity, right? Because of their real or perceived sexual orientation. So people are attacked because of their identity, but the law does not criminalize identity, right? So it begins to show us that there is a lot of protection, because if the law does not prohibit this, you cannot prosecute, you cannot attack based on what the law does not prosecute, right. does not prohibit. Furthermore, as I said earlier, there are a lot of protections available in the Constitution, and there are other laws like Violence Against Persons Act and other laws, even Cyber Crimes Act, where people's rights, if you stop someone on the internet, the law has remedies, right, to protect you from such stalking. So there's a lot of legal remedies, and indeed we at Minority Watch are beginning to take advantage of those legal remedies, and we are, it's a one step at a time, and we hope that eventually the courts will agree with us that the legal protections that are available to every Nigerian is also available to LGBTQI persons.
Have you seen any signs of that playing out, for example, where perpetrators are actually brought to justice in these cases?
Yes, we have a number of cases that has gone through the courts. The first one would be the one we experienced in, I think it was 2023, early 2023, where a transgender woman reported such abuse, a violation of her right to the police, and we insisted with the police that the matter should be taken to court, and indeed it went to court, and we saw how the magistrate treated the trans woman with respect. That was here in Lagos, and even though the matter was settled out of court eventually, her medical bills and medical expenses paid by the perpetrator, we saw how she was treated with respect. So we lost an opportunity of getting a conviction to show the attitude of the courts. And then, of course, we have another case that the perpetrator came to court, and he was charged, and pleaded guilty today, not guilty, was vacillating until eventually he pleaded guilty and he was convicted. But we are worried about the outcome, the sentencing, because the magistrate, again, in Lagos here, sentenced him to 3 months in prison. And one of the things he did was to bite off the ear of his perpetrator, of his victim. And we are worried that given that kind of injury inflicted on a human being, the court ought not to have, sentenced this person to 3 months. But happily, we have other cases that are ongoing, including the one we mentioned. I mentioned at the opening stages of this interview. It's ongoing, and we are being hopeful that the outcome will be good. And we have other cases that we hope that they will eventually find their way to court and we get favorable pronouncements.
Okay. Chizalu Emejulu, thank you for speaking to us and giving us that picture.
A pleasure.
What happens when the rains just stop coming? That's the reality in northern Kenya, where millions of people are now struggling to find enough basic food and water to survive, and hundreds of thousands are already in emergency conditions. Aid agencies warn things could get worse as rains keep failing and funding dries up. Our East Africa Bureau Chief Edith Kimani reports from Wajir, one of the hardest hit regions where families are at breaking point.
Sophia Aluwadan's first order of business is water. It is blisteringly hot, and the race to find even a drop is relentless. This is life in Wajir, one of the most heat-stressed regions on Earth.
We've not had any rain, and we're facing a very severe drought. It's now been almost 7 months since we last saw rainfall.
What little rain that came was not enough. The pasture dried out and Sophia's animals started to die. Now, the mother of 7 is alone to care for her children as her husband searches for what the drought stripped away: grazing land.
It's been 10 days since they left. My husband went with the remaining animals, but he would not have gone if things were okay.
Signs that things have not been okay are everywhere we look. Dried water pans, holes dug into riverbeds by people searching deeper for water. Scientists say this region in the Horn of Africa is drying out faster than at any point in the last 2,000 years. The IPC, who measure and communicate food crises, report 3.3 million people in northern Kenya cannot reliably feed themselves, 52% more than last year. Some of Sophia's children are malnourished and are being supported by an NGO-funded nutrition program. With her husband gone, the few remaining animals provide milk for the family. But Sophia cannot be sure when her husband will return, so she prioritizes getting water. With her children in tow, she begins a 20-minute walk to a nearby borehole. Hidden under her scarf is a 30-day-old baby. At the borehole, the clamor for water never lets up. Animals drink first. Only then are the large plastic containers filled for human use. The last time there was any significant rainfall in this area was 2 years ago, and it flooded then. These cycles of floods into droughts have left this community unable to stay resilient, leaving most of them dependent on not very sustainable forms of water. Deco, a resident here, tells me at least 100 families depend on this one borehole. But this water is neither free nor reliable.
You see in these skin tanks, and one of them is not functioning. For the last maybe 2 to 3 years, it's not functioning. Another tank here is not functioning. Yeah, it needs to repair.
Deco wants the government to do more for his community. But the local administrator says government is doing enough and that more help should come from outside. This reliance on external donors becomes apparent as residents approach us repeatedly, mistaking us for NGOs to ask if we've brought food. Further north, Suleiman Sane is used to these questions. He was born here, but the villagers know him as a Red Cross guy who brings food. Today, he has no food. International aid to the region has dropped sharply after funding cuts by major donors.
Very few organizations are having programs that are supporting this emergency drought response. As time moves and as time goes, you'll find that it's going to get worse and worse. With now also the climate change is not, getting better. It's getting worse, and then the donor wall is shrinking. So you look at the outlook is like very grim. But the good thing is that the communities are now trying to adapt.
Training communities on how to change is part of Suleiman's job. Some of the suggestions he makes today include storing hay for use during the rainy season, keeping fewer healthy animals, and controlling grazing patterns. It's not always an easy sell.
Because of now the aspect of being predominantly Muslim area, that we leave everything to God, and the rains will come, and when they come, we are better off. If they don't come, it's God's decision. So the aspect of preparedness is a challenge most times.
The government's answer to that challenge is a National Drought Management Authority created for a single task: to end drought emergencies in Kenya. In some areas, that work has already started. We find emergency animal feed ready for distribution by the Drought Management Authority to herders with absolutely no pasture. Sophia is not part of the distribution list, but at least she now has water.
If God gives us rain tomorrow, then we'll be grateful. Because if it rains, life would get better again.
For 13 euro cents, she's bought just enough for their daily use. Without animals to sell, money is hard to come by, and Sophia doesn't know how she'll buy more tomorrow. But right now, she lets her youngest enjoy the first sips. The skies are clear. She knows no rain is coming.
With global tensions rising, now inflamed by the war in the Middle East, Europe seems to be looking to the African continent to build new and more stable partnerships. This week, the European Commission Vice President Kaja Kallas has been traveling across West Africa. She's promoting the European Union as a non-transactional partner of choice, in contrast to the United States, China, and Russia. Starting her visit in Nigeria, Kallas highlighted the deep-rooted security ties the EU has with West African nations. She then headed to Ghana, where she signed a new security and defense deal, which is being called a first of its kind. During her visit to Accra, Kaja Kallas spoke exclusively to DW's Isaac Kaleji. He began by asking her whether the EU can build more balanced partnerships with African countries.
We have not been the transactionalist, so we have been trying to help African countries because you are our neighbors, and our neighbors' problems today are our problems tomorrow, so that's very much interlinked. But we are developing also now more, this balanced partnerships because, like I say, for example, regarding energy, regarding critical raw materials, also we are interested in, the support that African countries could give in these relationships, so that we are providing the technologies, but the jobs will remain here, so that also the critical raw materials that we need for our technologies can be used, but also it's a value added here in Africa.
So obviously you are interested in some of the resources on the continent.
Of course we are interested, but we are interested in a different way. We don't want to abuse the resources. We want that the benefit of these resources remains with the Africans. For us it is important that there is jobs and growth here in Africa, because then if there is jobs, there is also less instability, and there's also less migration pressure to Europe, because people don't really want to leave their homes unless they really have to. So it's really in our interest that African countries prosper.
On the Middle East, what is going on in Iran, obviously there are challenges with oil and prices going up, and we know that Europe also obviously is also suffering from this particular conflict. Is there any way you are looking to Africa for some of your energy supplies? Let me talk about oil, because of course Africa has the resources.
We were talking today and also yesterday regarding gas, because there is really 20% of the liquefied gas that comes from Qatar via the Strait of Hormuz. 85% of it goes to Asia. They are really struggling. And of course, we are not so dependent, but still, I think it's important that we are diversifying and finding ways, because from West Africa, you don't have the Strait of Hormuz that is actually really hindering this transit.
Well, that's it for now. Be sure to check out our other stories on dw.com/Africa or on our social media. See you next time. Bye for now.